I'm Lucille Keener Utley, and I'm originally from Welbourn, Oklahoma, born and raised. I was born at Eldon, east of Tahlequah, and I was raised up out of Welbourn, way out in the Bojacks.
I'm Edna Raper, Welbourn, from Hulbert. I grew up in Hulbert. My parents is Jim Raper, Pearl Raper, and I had 3 brothers. Well, I don't know where to start. We run around together. We left home together, and we got back together
And
later on in years.
We met at the school.
Is that where we
met?
met?
We met. I was 11 years old and you was 12, and we lived down there in the Bottoms at that time. Had to walk. Probably, gosh, I don't know how far it was. Quite a little ways. And we didn't have a mom with a car that could come pick us up. We walked everywhere we had to go. And
Well, I was the only girl in the family, so I was always out shooting marbles with the boys.
well, I was the only child, so I couldn't do that. But I can remember that we had to make our things to play with and everything. And I best remember a jenny. They called it a jenny, and you put it on a stump, long piece of lumber, like one sit on one end, one on the other, and somebody in the middle would push you around and around and around. Well, that was one of our toys. And another one of our toys was you got a long piece of board, put a Prince Albert can, usually is what we had, down there, and we had a whoop.
You come off a wagon wheel.
Yeah, a wagon wheel. And let it roll down that thing, and he'd get it going, and just take it and go and go and go. That was another one of our toys. At school, yeah, we chummed together. And then when we got to be teenagers, we ran around together, and that's when we really got into mischievous things, just like kids do now, but differently. We'd go to church, walk, just to have somewhere to go. We went to church.
Whenever we found some ice, well, we'd stop and skate. A bunch of us to go in the same direction.
Yeah. And then when we left church, come back home, she would spend nights with me and I'd spend nights with her, is what the deal was. And so this was what is known as Prairie, out on Prairie from Hulbert there. And when we left church, we'd come back. There were some people had cars, but there wasn't very many. We'd see a car light coming. You ought to seen she and I, we'd zoop off into the ditch and cross the fence and go down till that car passed, and then we'd come back out. And it's winter, we didn't fall in no wells. Edna spent the night with me one night, so we told Mom, we were teenagers then, we told Mom, we're going to church tonight. Okay. So when it got time for us to go, well, we left the house, and it's an old house, so we took off out one the road that went to Hulbert. Wasn't very far from our house out there. We got into it, and we looked to see if she could see us, and we crawled under the fence and turned and went south. And back when we were growing up, they had dances in people's homes, in their own home, and so that's where we were headed, way out in the country from where we lived. And that's where we had to cross that branch creek, and I made it fine. Look, heard her laughing, and she fell off of the
footload
and got her feet wet. But we went on and then came back home, and we got back home. Later on, several years after that, Mom and I got to talking about that, and she said, I knew y'all where y'all went.
She said she seen us pass by.
And someone told her, I think.
I had a partner one time, and he was calling for the dance. It was one of you lived over there in that house. It had the hall in it.
Yeah.
And it was an older house. And boy, he's standing there just calling and patting his foot, his hands in his foot, and he's on this side of me. Boy, he just disappeared. And I looked like that. He had broke a board and had fell on the ground. Because that house was pretty high up off of the ground.
My mom raised me by herself, alone, and she had a hard time back then. 1930s when I was born, and that was during the Depression, and it ended at that time. It was in the ending of the Depression. That poor old mom would walk to people's houses and wash to earn money. And do you think that they would do that now? No. But she had to do it, and she did it. And I guess we always had money, but the way she had to do was do laundry and do ironings and clean houses and stuff like that, and walk a long ways, walk where she went. Like I said, my mom, she took care of me. We had cats, a couple of cats. The cat would go, they'd go out scavenging too, hunting something to eat. Here'd come one of our cats with a ground squirrel in her mouth. And my mom, she'd go out there. Oh, I feel so bad about it now, but she'd take that ground squirrel from that cat. They're just like a squirrel, but they're little. And she would take that thing in the house, and she would clean that thing and cook that for me. We had, at home, our main meat was like rabbit, squirrels. And the kids laugh at me now because the squirrels, when they were clean, the head was my favorite piece because I ate the brain. That's why I'm so smart today, because I ate all them brains, all the squirrel heads. Back then, I didn't ever know what time out was. Didn't have that, but we had some switches that go down. My stepdad go down and get an old hickory switch, and it wasn't smooth, and that tapped me a little bit. I can remember the teacher going up, and I thought that was mean, putting a circle up on the blackboard and make us stick our nose in it.
That's how come my nose is flat.
That kind of stuff.
We worked shift work, didn't we?
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun together.
We
just almost just feel like sisters, really, actually. And so we've known each other that long. I was 11, she was 12. That's a long years.